One of the big questions that I was thinking about is, can one grieve and have gratitude at the same time? Can we grieve and have gratitude at the same time? And this whole Passover, I've been thinking about it a lot. Hello, and thank you for joining me here on Hope to Recharge podcast, the podcast that's designed to break the stigma around mental health and to create some hope and inspiration and give some practical tips to those that are struggling with mental health, whether it's from personal stories to break the stigma or some advice from professionals in the mental health community. Whether you are struggling with mental health on your own or you know a loved one that is struggling, we are here to support you and to create a community so you know you are not alone. The road to recovery can be difficult and challenging. At Hope to Recharge, we believe that in mental health, together is always better. I'm your host, Matana. Thank you for joining me here today. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, the online platform for therapy. Are you thinking of starting therapy, or are you in need of a new therapist? Go to BetterHelp.com and find the therapist that meets your need. You can access them from your phone, from your tablet, from your computer. No matter where you are in the world, no matter what time of day, you can find your therapist that fits your need. BetterHelp is giving us 10% off the first month. They are so affordable. Go check them out. BetterHelp.com/Hope to Recharge. That's BetterHelp.com/Hope to Recharge. Gift yourself therapy. Go get yourself wellness. Hello, and thank you for joining me here on Attitude of Gratitude Thursday and Hope to Recharge podcast. Hope all is well with you. Hope all the holidays went okay. I'm hoping that everybody is staying safe emotionally and physically, and if anybody is not feeling well, I hope that they are getting to wellness and recovering fast and easy with very little pain. This week, on Tuesday, 2 days ago, we released an episode that I recorded a few months ago, and I was really supposed to release it in a few weeks, and I decided to switch things up a little bit and release it early because it was on grief. When I recorded it with Dr. Frier, he is a psychiatrist that talks about losing his daughter and grieving and how do we overcome grief. Is it possible? It's a fantastic episode, and I highly recommend everybody go listen to it. It's this past Tuesday, episode 93. How to deal with grief, how to overcome grief, how do we balance grief, what is grief? And I decided to release it now during Corona, even though when we recorded it, we didn't even know about Corona. I mean, we knew about it, that it was in China, but we didn't really, we weren't living Corona. Now the world is living it, feeling it, grieving it. And I thought it was so appropriate to release it because there's so many people grieving, unfortunately. And some are grieving for loss of loved ones, and some are grieving from loss of what we are used to in life. And this was phenomenal episode that I heard from Brene Brown. Brene Brown just came out with a new podcast. Fantastic. You know how much I love Brene Brown. And she had an episode with David Kessler. David Kessler is an author. Last year, he wrote a book on grief and finding meaning. And in 2005, he wrote another book on grief. I think the 5 stages of grieving. He wrote it with another co-author. Fantastic book. But he wrote the last book on grief and finding meaning. He wrote it after he lost his son out of nowhere. He found that there was a last stage in grieving, and he named it meaning. This episode that Brene Brown had with David Kessler was like, wow. I listened to it 5 times. I listened to it with my children, and my kids were asking me why I'm listening to it so many times. And I said, because I'm processing it. It's so deep for me. And there was such golden nuggets for me. And I highly recommend you all go listen to it. It's Brene Brown's podcast. and I think it came out on March 31st. It's with David Kessler. And there was so much for me to understand on grief, because grief is something that I am super afraid of. It's something that, thank God, I never had to really deal with because I didn't have a tremendous loss in my life, and something that I am very, very framed from. So I think I mentioned this a few episodes ago, that I'm really researching grief and I'm hyper obsessing about it a little bit. And this past few weeks, it became a reality for me because so many people are grieving, and we're grieving life as it used to be. That's what Brene Brown talks about in the episode. We're grieving what we had and we no longer have. We're grieving loved ones. We're grieving other people's pain of loved ones. That episode gave me so much understanding of what grief is. And after I was processing all this information, one of the big questions that I was thinking about is, can one grieve and have gratitude at the same time? Can we grieve and have gratitude at the same time? And this whole Passover, I've been thinking about it a lot. Right before I started Passover a few days ago, we had a 3-day holiday that we had no electronics, disconnecting from the world and just connecting to ourselves, to God, to our family. Lots of food, wine, eating, celebrating, prayer. So the first night of Passover, it's a very big night. We have a Seder, and at the Seder, we sit and we talk about the ancient times, how the Jews left Egypt, the life in Egypt. After we left Egypt, I often think about everybody has their own little Egypt in their life that they're connected to something that they want to disconnect from, that is their thing that they want to leave Egypt from, like their own personal Egypt. And right before I lit candles, we lit candles right before the holiday. Right before I lit the candles, I found out about someone we're very close to that is really not doing well. And we didn't know if he will survive the holiday. I came from so much gratitude, preparing, seeing the beautiful table, my kids helping. There was so much abundance of gratitude to having a phone call about this person that's really not doing well, and will he survive or not? And my heart sunk, and I said, how do I go light candles with a heavy heart of sadness for the family? Like, how are they going to get through it? They can't even be in the hospital with him. They can't even connect to him when he's suffering, being so remote and far and distant, and he's such a special person. And how are we supposed to have gratitude with so much pain? And I was really having a very really hard time. And I called my uncle, and literally 5 minutes before, and I said, how do we practice gratitude in the same time that it says that we have to be happy on holiday? We also have a commandment to be happy on the holidays. So how do we do that? How do we balance all of this? And his answer was that we have moments and times for everything, and we need to divide it and really say, this is the time for being sad with our loved ones, or holding space for sadness for others. And then we have to go into gratitude. And one of the things that we say at the first night of Passover and many other times during the year is a prayer called Hallel, which is praise, gratitude. I think that's how I translate it. Like, we're praising God, we're saying thanks to God, we're giving grace to God. It's a very powerful prayer, and we say it every first day of the month. Also say it on holidays. We have certain times that we say it, and saying it on Passover is a very big deal because we say it at the table, not during the prayer only. We also say it during the meal, which usually is never done during a meal. And I was saying, like, how am I saying such praise when there is so much pain? And then I remembered a thought that is brought down in the Jewish concept, is that when the Jews left Egypt, it says that they came to
the Red Sea.
And the Egyptians drowned in the sea, and God split the sea, and the Israelites went through the water, in dry land in the water. And when the Egyptians were destroyed, and it was the end of the misery for the Israelites, it says that the angels wanted to sing praise and to be happy. And God came to them. They came to God and said, we want to sing praise. And God said to them, this is not the time to sing praise. My humankind, my handmade humans, it's hard to translate, but it's Ma'aseh Yadai Tovim Bayam Ve'atem Omrim Shira. My handmade creation is drowning, and you want to say praise and you want to say thanks. This is not the time. And one of the big essential things that we learn from this is that when someone that we dislike, or someone that is not good to us, or someone that is evil in the world even, gets destroyed or falls, this is not the time to be happy. Even when negative people fall, even when bad people fall and destroy and they get destroyed, it is not the time to be happy. So how much more should we learn from this, that when loved ones or people, amazing people, not even loved ones, some people that we don't even know, but good people from the world are dying, how can we sing praise? We were sitting at the table on Passover and singing praise to God, and it was something so hard for me to understand. It was bothering me. Every day we have a Zoom call with all my siblings in Israel and my parents, and it's really beautiful. All the grandchildren get together and the children and my parents, and we say interesting thoughts from the Bible. We joke a lot. We sing. Sometimes we pray. And I asked this question, and one of my nephews had a quick answer, and he says, first of all, it wasn't the place for the angels to sing praise, because it wasn't their battle against the Egyptians. It wasn't them leaving Egypt that are celebrating. That's first of all. Second of all, when we sing praise, Hallel, that prayer on Passover and other times, the reason we're singing it, we're doing it on the past things that we're grateful for, not for what we're going through now, the pain and the struggles. That's on a separate level of super high, and I'm not even sure it's feasible. But for the past, we can sing praise, and that's what we do on Passover. We're singing praise for things that happened to us in the past. Gratitude for what happened to us in the past, things that worked for us in the past. And that made so much sense to me. And one of the things that David Kessler said, and this is fantastic, one of the things that he said on Brene Brown's podcast was that in his book, on Finding Meaning, he writes about how do we practice gratitude during grief. And he says it's not like it's together, and it's not like it's either or. And we're never grateful for the horrible things that happen. We're never grateful that someone died. But we can be grateful. This is what he said. I can be grateful that I had the 21 years living with my son. I could be grateful that I was chosen to be his father. I could be grateful for moments in life that I have in my memory to hold on to. And that's something that was really insightful for me and so helpful for me, because I was struggling with the idea of grief and gratitude together. And I think that the idea that my nephew brought up was very similar, that we need to be grateful for the past and mourn what we are losing now, and hope that our day-to-day life will come back and people will heal, and hope that things will get better, and hope that the world will change and we will not have these pandemics again. But grieve the loss of what we don't have, hugs that we can't give each other. That's one of the things that they spoke about on the podcast, that we can't just get out of the house and run into our car and just run shopping. Yesterday I was driving with my son. Every day I take him in a car just to drive him out. My baby, he likes the outdoors. So we play in the backyard, and then once a day, either me or my older son takes him just around the block in the car. And then I said, you know what? I need something from the store. And then I realized I can't just run into the store like I used to. I have to think, okay, who's in the car with me? They have to go home. I have to go with my gloves, with my mask. I have to be very focused. Will there be a line out the door? What time of the day should I go? Because so many times there's a line of 2 hours to get into a store. How our life changed, and how we need to be grateful for what we used to have, that we just hop into a store and go by in 2 seconds. And hopefully we will have it again. So I find that there's a big connection between grieving the now and being grateful for the past, and be able to hold on to it to go into the future. And yes, so many of us lost loved ones. When I say us, it's because good friends of mine lost loved ones, and I feel like it's us. It hurts my heart, my stomach, my being. It hurts. And I have a hard time to get out of that hurt. But when I go into the gratitude for the past and the hope for the future, that's what elevates me from that pain. And I don't think there's a right or wrong way to deal with it. And everybody has to be different. And one of the smart things that David Kessler says is the biggest loss is your loss. There is no greater pain, one bigger than the other. And I think, if I remember correctly, Dr. Frier said the same thing, that we can't compare losses. There's no one loss, one tragedy that's bigger than the other. Loss is loss. And the biggest loss is yours. And each and every one of us can process loss and grief in a different way. And that is okay. And we should not speed grief and we should not feel that it's wrong. But we also shouldn't feel that if we're grateful for the past, that means that we're not grieving, because it can come together. And as I was processing so much of these thoughts during the day, I reached out to a friend of mine, which I never met. I haven't met her, but I spoke to her many times over social media. She lives in my community. She lost her husband last year. It was exactly 13 months ago. Exactly 13 months ago, actually. Her husband went to work and she got a phone call that he collapsed and passed away. It was a tragedy, a real tragedy. She had little kids at home, and she went back to life in a powerful way to encourage people to move forward and to grieve in the proper way. She is a strong person. And I reached out to her today and I said to her, I wish I could play the recording that she sent back to me. I said to her, what's your belief about grief and gratitude together? Can one do it together? And she said, her answer was, of course you can. And not only that, you start having gratitude like you've never had before. You suddenly realize the smallest gifts in life that you've never been grateful for and you took for granted suddenly becomes hyper-focused onto, wow, look how much we need to be grateful for right here, right now. And when I heard that, I'm like, wow, she's an incredible person. I said, can you come onto my podcast and discuss this with you? And that I could discuss this with you, because it sounds like you can give so much encouragement and insight to the world from your perspective and how you found gratitude during grief and what it means. And it doesn't mean that we're not mourning the loved ones. It just means that we find deeper meaning, just like David Kessler says, we find a deeper meaning in what we're going through or in life in general, because when we find meaning, it gives us a sense of purpose to continue with the pain. So I know this was a little bit complex. It was a complex thought for me. I hope you understood what I was trying to say and I gave it over properly, but I tried my best. It's a complicated thought, at least for me, and I was trying to bring it all together because grief, as I said, is something that I am super afraid of. Super afraid of. And I read a lot of books on grief and I research grief and I want to understand it. I think the reason why I'm afraid of it because I don't know what it feels like and I'm afraid that I might not survive the pain. I know what pain feels like and I know how bad pain was for me in the past and how I would never want to go to some pains that I went through. And I fear that the pain will be greater than the pain I went through in the past, and I don't know if I'll be able to survive. So I'm a little bit afraid of it. And there's a little bit of shame around my fear because I'm fearing something that is unknown. And why am I even obsessing about it? But I am. So this is who I am. And if any of you have insight on this, I would love to hear. And during this, when we're grieving together in the world, try to be grateful for things we had in the past that we no longer have now and visualize it coming back to us. And if it's a loved one, let's do what David Kessler recommended, which he says in his book, and I highly recommend buy the book, Finding Meaning. And he recommends to think back on things that you had with that person you're grieving that you're grateful for. And it doesn't replace the pain and it doesn't replace the grief, but it just brings us a moment of gratitude. And he does say there's a time and place for everything. It's not like we can go into gratitude right away in grief. Some people do it faster than others, but It's not like there's a timeline, but it does happen eventually, and it's a process, and each one does it differently. It's a fantastic book, and it's a fantastic episode. Go listen to it. Please, 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 please go listen to it and share that episode with others, because you can help somebody overcome and understand what they're going through. I think I'm going to make an episode after Passover. Tonight is Passover, by the way, by us. You're going to hear this when our Passover is over, but tonight I will be lighting candles for our last days of Passover. In Israel, it's for 1 day. In anywhere outside of Israel, it's for 2 days we celebrate it. And I'm a little bit sad that Passover is over. I was looking so forward to Passover, and it's one of my favorite holidays, and I'm sad that it's over. But I'm grateful that we had it. I'm mourning the loss of Passover, and every holiday I mourn the loss of the holiday since I'm a little girl, little girl. But I'm going to choose to hyper focus on what went so well during this holiday, and how beautiful it was, and how much I have to be grateful for. My children, my husband, my home, my beautiful meals, our singing, our dancing. So many hard moments as well. So many hard moments this holiday. So many hard moments, but so many beautiful moments. And I'm going to remember what David Kessler suggests. And I'm going to do that when I say goodbye to my holiday. I'm going to feel the pain of it leaving, but at the same time be grateful for what I had during it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it gave you some clarity. If you have any questions, let me know. You can reach us on my website, hopetorecharge.com. There's a contact us, send us an email. Please, 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 please. If you like this episode, leave a rating and reviews. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you. Go to our Hope to Recharge Facebook group. Join us there. Join the conversation. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Thank you for giving me ideas. Thank you for giving me the courage. We're almost coming up on 100 episodes, and we were planning this big thing for 100, but now with everything that's going on with Corona, I don't know what's going to be. We're just going to take it a day at a time. Anyway, love you all. Be good. Be grateful. Be blessed. Be healthy, shine love, lots of love. Have a good one. Thank you for joining us and taking the time to listen. I really appreciate it. Please hit the subscribe button so you can hear further episodes. If you are listening to us on iTunes, please leave feedback and ratings below. Let us know if there's any topic that you would like to hear from us in the future. Bye till next time.